Red Bull has had a troublesome period in Hungary, and it seems like some of the issues have surfaced despite Verstappen trying to hide them with the post-race interviews. The pace of the car was nowhere to be found compared to where they were in the first 5 races, and knowing Verstappen and his preferences, he could easily get tired of carrying the team on his back if this continues for the remainder of the season. The statements from the rest of the team are not reassuring either, and with this in mind, could we see a massive shakeup in Red Bull, and who would profit the most out of it? The Hungarian GP was one of the most exciting races in this year's calendar, but it seems like for Red Bull the excitement was guided more towards negativity than positivity. Obviously, the RB20 was not the fastest car here despite them bringing a massive upgrade package that should have improved the pace of the car in such tricky circuits. And all they managed to score is P5 and P7, gathering only 16 points, while the 1-2 finish of McLaren cut down the lead to only 51 points in the favour of the Austrian team. Verstappen was quite critical of the team's recent performance, and while saying that some people need to wake up and understand the importance of the upgrades, he also said that he isn't satisfied with how things are currently going in the team. When talking about this matter in a greater extent, the 3-time world champion reflected on Hungary and the overall situation after 13 races down the road, adding, "Of course, I'm not happy. On a day where we are already lacking pace compared to McLaren, you'd try and hope that we do the right things with the strategy, which was not the case in Hungary. The first stop to be undercut by Hamilton was not ideal, but then again in the second round of stops, the team left me where I basically immediately got into traffic with backmarkers. Naturally, of course, that frustrates me because I want things to be done better because I'm realistic. In Hungary, we couldn't have beaten the McLarens, but a P3 was on the cards and we would have just been on it a bit more." Max blaming the strategy of the team, although with a valid argument, is a clear sign that he does not respect what they did for him in the previous races, such as the ones in Montreal and Silverstone. Had it not been for the strategy here, it was very unlikely that he would have won in the first one and finished second in Silverstone, which could prove to be beneficial now that the fight in the Drivers' Championship is extremely close. Even in the post-race debrief, Verstappen didn't really seem to care about the comments made towards him, and when talking about how he was criticized for the overly aggressive dive bomb that he seemed to judge a couple of weeks ago in Austria, the 3-time world champion said, "The critics can F off. I got a lot of stuff thrown at me in Austria with people saying moving under braking, blah blah blah. I'm positioning my car for the initial movement, and then I keep it straight. Today, under braking, Hamilton just kept turning to the right, and that is why I also locked up because I was going for the move, but I saw the car on the outside keep coming at me. Otherwise, we would have already crashed. I had to stop the car, so that is why I locked up." What is worrying is that Verstappen seems to have let the emotions get the worst out of him, and while trying to overtake in turn 1 in the closing stages of the race, he crashed with Hamilton in what seemed like terminal damage at first, but he managed to continue with the race and lose just 1 position to Leclerc. A similar situation happened in Austria with Norris, only with the difference that he lost 4 positions and dropped from a race leader to P5. This could be considered good luck for Verstappen, but it was ultimately the strategy that wasn't the best for the team, and Verstappen still doesn't see any fault in his comments because his point of view is that when there are problems in the team, you need to be vocal and not just wait for the debrief after the race. Adding to this matter, Verstappen said, "I don't think we need to apologize, we just need to do a better job. I don't know why people think we can't be vocal on the radio. This is a sport. If some people don't like that, then stay at home." These are quite some strong words from Verstappen, and obviously you would expect nothing less from a man who's won 62 races and more than 100 podiums in his career. However, there is a lot of pressure on his shoulders now because there is only one driver in this team who can win races. Unlike Red Bull, the rest of the top 4 teams all have a driver who has won a race, while the Austrian team remains with Verstappen as the sole race winner for them in 2024. This goes to show how much performance Verstappen has been extracting out of the car, but then again it also shows that he can grow impatient with the upgrades of the car because the package that has been brought to Hungary was supposed to salvage the season in terms of the car's performance in bumpy and tricky conditions, but it ultimately didn't. Helmut Marko wouldn't raise the alarm straight away, as the veteran Austrian feels it's too early to judge after only one race. Adding to this, Marko said, "It was the first race with the upgrades, and Budapest is not exactly a typical racetrack. Let's wait and see what Spa looks like. Normally you gain more knowledge with every race. I don't want to make a final judgment. Max must now show some patience and understanding. The summer break is now urgently needed." Red Bull are now in great danger of losing Verstappen as well, and while the news has been circulating more around Perez and his performance, the Mexican driver managed to finish P7 after starting P16, and this is definitely something that can boost the hopes of an uprise in his performance. Still, this is not enough, and we've seen that when McLaren is competitive, both of their drivers are in the top 5, usually in the top 3, and now a lot is on the table for Red Bull to fix ahead of the upcoming race in Spa. Here, it's rumored that Verstappen would take an additional 5th engine, which would automatically mean a 10-place grid penalty that could prove pivotal for his race and how the Drivers' Championship would end up to be. When talking about the expectations in the following race, Verstappen raised his concerns that the problem they have is not fixable by just adding an upgrade and hoping it would work, as he went on to elaborate. "We know that we're lacking pace compared to McLaren, and it's not nice, but we have to analyze our stuff, how we can improve our overall package currently. But I don't think that is something that you could do very easily. We will see next week how it evolves, but at the moment, I think race pace, qualifying pace, we are behind McLaren." All of this goes to show that Mercedes would be more than happy to prove to Verstappen that they have finally built a car that could fight for race wins under the current regulation era. And now it's more than certain that once the 2025 season starts, we will have a lot of interesting stuff going on left and right with all the drivers involved. This shouldn't fool you into believing that Verstappen would give up just like that. He's one of the fiercest drivers on the grid. However, if he feels like Red Bull has entered into a regression mode, then he would obviously look for the next best seat available, and we know where that seat lies right now. With Antonelli saying that he might not be ready for F1 just yet after his second F2 feature race win, it further opens the door for the potential candidates to replace Hamilton. And while this means good news for Sainz, who might find a resurrection in his form with the Silver Arrows, it's also good news for the Dutchman if he is to drive somewhere else than Red Bull. The gains that the Brackley-based squad have found are too big to be ignored, and being the second team to have scored the most points in the last 6 races, as Russell's mechanical DNF as well as poor performance in Hungary have hindered this statistic a lot, goes to show that there is a lot more to be unlocked from Mercedes if they put a more competitive driver in there. All of this points towards a downward trend for Red Bull that, if it's not fixed for Spa, would cause some serious trouble for the Milton Keynes squad. Do you think that Verstappen will leave the Austrian nest if he sees that Mercedes has a better trajectory? And furthermore, who do you think would be the best replacement for him? Let us know in the comments below.